Distinguished Senator Tafomo, you know, this order 4252, you are supposed to discuss this thing with me. And I think this is to all of us, please. This order is very explicit that before someone, a distinguished senator, presents the order 42 and 52 or 42 alone, he should discuss this thing with me. I would have not approved electricity problem as an emergency, but because you have already stood up here, so this, please, should be the point at which I'll make this point. Because next time, if someone does not bring the matter to me, I will understand whether it is an emergency or not. So I will take this one. He said 4252 in 2 minutes. But next time, please let me know what it is first, because that's what our standing order says. Even order 43 says I should have an idea of what it is, so that we don't run into this thing. So you can view on this, but maybe next time we need to have discussions on it. So you may sit down, then I'll put the question, and I'm sure our colleagues will give you the opportunity to present. Distinguished colleagues, our colleague Senator Nicholas Tofomo has an issue with the electricity in his senatorial district, and I'm of the opinion that we give him the opportunity to seek some relief for the affected communities. So those in favor that he presents his motion now say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished, continue. Proceed, please.
Thank you so much. I was watching. I thought they would just say no, but I thank everybody for saying I'm allowed. I'm the only senator on crutches, so you should sympathize with me. My Senate President, sir, we should note that unfortunate situation in my senatorial district in Ondo State, where 90% of my people have been deprived of electricity power supply since 2007, which is about 14 years of unfortunate and uninterrupted darkness. The situation is embarrassing and despicable, because I continue to wonder if Ondo South is in Nigeria, because suffering from electricity blackout for about 14 years has grounded many economic activities in my district. I'm concerned that a senatorial district suffering from electricity power supply generates electricity in Omotosho Power Station in Okitupa local government with a capacity of 512 megawatts and 451 megawatts net since 2005, without the people of the local government and large percentage of people in Ondo South benefiting from the distribution. Further note that intervention came in 2012, about 9 years ago, by NDDC, when the contract of 132 kV transmission and 132 kV stroke 33 kV substation and line was awarded in Okitupa local government. As of today, 85% of the job has been completed, and all the 145 transmission lines towers from Omotosho Power Station to substation has been completed. I want to emphasize that the substation outstanding work remains only 15%, which can be accomplished without delay. If all the necessary machineries are put in place, the substation can be ready for transmission to the federal feeders in Irele, Odigbo, Ilaje, Eseodo, and Okitupa local governments. It's very unfortunate in Ondo South because it has really affected our economy and there's no functioning industry in this district. Accordingly, I resolve that, one, let us appreciate Nigeria, the NDDC, for taking up responsibility of installing a transmission station in Okitipupa local government that will supply the electricity in Nigerian, Eseodo, Okitipupa, Irele, and Odigbo local government. Number 2, urge the Senate to appeal to NDDC to complete the remaining 15% within the shortest possible time, so that fast supply will be available before the end of the year. Thank you so much.
Deputy Leader, would you like to say something? Because this is from your state.
To second it? Okay. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Robert Borofis, representing Ondo Senatorial District. I rise to support the motion raised by my colleague and brother, Senator Sofomowo, on the very scandalous situation of electricity in Ondo South Senatorial District. It's long overdue for the state and for the country to look into this, as to give our people the feeling of being members of this nation. I so support.
Distinguished colleagues, we go to the prayers. The Senate accordingly resolves to appreciate the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, for taking up the responsibility of installing a transmission substation in Okitipupa local government that will supply the electricity of Ilaje, Eseodo, Okitipupa, Irele, and Odigbo local governments. Urge the Senate to appeal to Niger Delta Development Commission to complete the remaining 15% within the shortest possible time, so that the electricity power supply will be available before the end of the year. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Federal Roads Authority Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Road Authority Bill 2021, HB 360, first reading.
Federal Road Authority Bill 2021, HB 360, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the National Road Fund Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Road Fund Bill 2021, HB 367, first reading.
National Road Fund Bill 2021, HB 367, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar on the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Analysis Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Analysis Bill 2021, SB 790, first reading.
Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Analysts Bill 2021, SB 790, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Matthew Orogide on the Federal College of Education, Ekiadolo Establishment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Education, Ekiadolo Establishment Bill 2021, SB 800, first reading.
Federal College of Education, a Kia Law Establishment Bill 2021, SB 800, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Ibrahim Yahya Oloregbe on the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board Act J1 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 Amendment Bill 2021. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of this.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Joint Admission and Matriculation Board Act Cap J1 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2021, SB 801, first reading.
Joint Admission and Matriculation Board JAM Act Cap J1 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2021, SB 801, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in my name on the executive communication from Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, on the approval of multilateral fund projects under the 2018-2021 Federal Government External Borrowing Rolling Plan. The two senators will recall that the request from Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, was sent on Tuesday, 14 September 2021. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move that the request of Mr. President be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I so move.
Minority Leader. Minority Leader. Minority Leader. Minority Leader. Oh, okay. You have passed the bag.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Senate Leader, so second.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate considers the request of Mr. President C&C for the approval of multilateral fund projects under the 2018-2021 Federal Government External Borrowing Rolling Plan, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The request of Mr. President C&C is referred to the Committee on Local and Foreign Debts to report back within 1 week. Chairman, is 1 week enough for you? Yes, thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and State Funds on the Federal College of Education, Umo Ekiti State Establishment, etc. Bill 2021. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 20th September 2020. Mr. President, may we invite distinguished Senator Ahmed Babaketa, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation.
Chairman, Tertiary Institutions and State Fund. Professor, are you going to present? Okay. Distinguished Senator Professor Sunday Ono.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to propose that the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and State Fund on the Federal College of Education, Ekiti State Establishment Bill 2021 SB 269 be presented for consideration. I so.
Thank you. I need someone to second. Senator Binos Yarododa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'm Binos Dauda Yaro, representing Adamawa South, Adamawa State. I rise to second the motion that the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and State Funds be submitted. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, Those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Debt Fund, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the report, please. Chairman, you may present the report. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll go straight to findings. From the views expressed by stakeholders at the public hearing and subsequent analysis of both oral and written presentations of memoranda, the committee hereby makes the following observations. One, that the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Umo-Ekiti, in Ekiti State, will certainly go a long way in supporting teacher education, training, and instructions in the Southwest Geopolitical Zone and Nigeria at large. Two, that the establishment of Federal College of Education in Umo-Ekiti, Ekiti State will no doubt provide the required manpower needs of Nigerians in the areas of specialized educational services, training of teachers, and teaching in every aspect of education and fields of applied learning relevant to the developmental needs of the education sector in Nigeria. Three, generally it was established by stakeholders that cardinal to the challenges of unrest in our country is the chronic lack of proper institutions of learning at all levels across the geopolitical zone. Therefore, the establishment of Federal College of Education, Umo-Ekiti, Ekiti State, can be described as putting a round peg in a round hole. Recommendations, Mr. President. The Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Debt Fund, having carefully considered the bill, hereby recommends as follows: that the Senate do consider and pass the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Umo-Ekiti, Ekiti State, and for other matters connected therewith, 2021 SB 269. Conclusion. In conclusion, I want to use this opportunity to thank the President of the Senate and distinguished colleagues for the opportunity to serve in this capacity and to humbly request the Senate to pass the bill. I so move, Mr. President.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole. Leader, we're waiting for you. Committee of the Whole. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, this is a bill seeking to establish a tertiary institution and has 28 clauses. Almost all the clauses are retained. Those in favor of clauses 1 and 2 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. Those in favor of clauses 3 and 4 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 5, clause 6, and clause 7 on page 10. Those in favor of clauses 5, 6, and 7 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 8, visitation by the minister. Clause 9, office of the provost. And clause 10, tenure and procedure for removal of provost. Those in favor of those clauses stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 11, office of the deputy provost on page 17. Clause 12, other principal officers. Clause 13, functions of registrar on page 18. Those in favor of those clauses stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 14, functions of the bursar. Clause 15, functions of the college librarian. Clause 16, resignation. Those in favor of clauses 14, 15, and 16 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 17, on page 22, clause 18, appointment of other staff. Clause 19, remuneration of provost. And clause 20, pension bill provisions. Those in favor of those clauses stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 21, general funds of the college on page 24. Clause 22, clause 23, and clause 24. Those in favor of clauses 21, 22, 23, and 24 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 25, offices and premises on page 26. Clause 26, discipline of students. Clause 27 on page 29 and clause 28. Those in favor of those clauses stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the interpretation stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the short title on page 30 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the schedule stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to my motion for the chair to report progress.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund on the Federal College of Education, UMOA, Ekiti State Establishment Bill 2021, and approved as follows. Long title as recommended. Clauses as recommended. Interpretation as recommended. Short title as recommended. The schedule as recommended, the explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I move that this bill be read the third time.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Allow him to go now if he wants to go. This one is imprisonment. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, any the ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Amo Ekiti State, and for other matters connected therewith 2021, SB 269, third reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Ekiti State, and for other matters connected there with 2021, third reading taken, and the bill is passed. Congratulations, Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Communications on the distinguished Senator Olujimi to represent distinguished Senator Oluremi Tinubu, who is the chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of this report.
Distinguished Senator Abiodun Olujimi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Abiodun Olujimi, I represent Ekiti South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand in the gap for the chairman of the Committee on Communication, Senator Oluremi Tinubu. And by your leave, Mr. President, I will lay the document on the report of the Committee on Communications on the nationwide toll-free emergency number establishment bill 2021, SB 583. I seek your permission, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, distinguished. Distinguished Senator Deji Biobarakuma, you may second, please.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Degi Eremia. I represent Bayelsa East Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion presented ably by my distinguished colleague that the report on the nationwide toll-free emergency number establishment bill 2021 SB 583 be submitted is hereby seconded, and I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of our Committee on Communications on the nationwide toll-free emergency number, say aye. Those against, any the ayes have it. You may lay the report, please. You may present the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Once again, my name is Abiodun Olujimi. I represent Ekiti South, and this is the report of the Committee on Communications on the nationwide toll-free emergency number establishment bill 2021, SB 583. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the Senate at its plenary session on Wednesday, 21st April 2021, read the nationwide toll-free emergency number establishment bill 2021 SB 583 the second time and referred same to this committee for further legislative action. and to report back with its recommendations. The committee embarked on the following legislative framework after a series of meetings. 1. Consultation with stakeholders on the justification of the establishment of the toll-free emergency number. 2. Conduct of a public hearing. 3. Consideration of the contributions. 3. Consideration of the contributions by distinguished senators at the second reading of the bill. And 4. Consideration of other contributions that would assist the committee in the discharge of its assignments. The main objectives of the bill are to establish a nationwide toll-free emergency number as the primary emergency telephone number for use in Nigeria and to implement a nationwide system for the reporting of it.
Chief Whip, did you say order 5610? You may read order 5610, please. Distinguished colleagues, the Chief Whip has drawn our attention to order 5610. It's on page 41. I told you raise your hand and you say point of order. No, not go ahead. Read the something.
Who's have a problem?
Page 41, yes. The Rules and Business Committee shall allocate, no. 5610.
Standing order 5610 is
Or shall confer only under those. No senator shall be allowed to smoke. Anyway, this the over-assisted are read.
well. Thank you very much, the Chief Whip. The Chief Whip, just to reiterate, during a sitting, all senators shall be silent or shall confer only in undertones. Please, distinguished colleagues, let's listen to our colleagues in silence. We can still talk, but in low tones, please. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The objectives of the bill, the main objectives are to establish a nationwide toll-free emergency number as the primary emergency telephone number for use in Nigeria and to implement a nationwide system for the reporting of emergencies to emergency service agencies. 2, to establish 191 as the emergency number of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to enable Nigerians to have access to emergency service agencies for quick and timely response to all forms of emergency situations, such as road accidents, fire outbreaks, burglary, and medical emergencies. To guarantee efficient and effective emergency response system that will provide a single point of contact for assistance in any emergency situation, and to vest the Nigerian Communications Commission with the responsibility of supervising, managing, and implementing the bill as its provisions. Mr. President, permit me to go to the legislative summary. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this legislative summary highlights further inputs made on the provisions of the bill by the committee. The long title is changed to accommodate the establishment of a nationwide emergency communication service for reporting of emergencies throughout the Federation. Plus 2, purpose of the bill. The established nationwide emergency service is to be charged with the responsibility of deployment and coordination throughout Nigeria of a seamless, ubiquitous, and reliable end-to-end infrastructure for emergency needs. Plus 3, emergency number. The emergency number is now 112 instead of 191, as 112 has already been deployed by the Nigerian Communications Commission. Clause 4, emergency services. This clause was amended to align with other provisions of the bill. Clause 5, administration of the bill. This clause was amended to vest the Nigerian Communications Commission with the responsibility of formulating regulations and guidelines for the workings of the nationwide emergency communication service. Clause 6, responsibilities of the Nigerian Communications Commission. The clause broadens the responsibilities of the implementing agency to not only cover telephone, but to include all communication systems. Clause 7, personnel. This clause was amended to reflect that the staff of the Nigerian Communications Commission shall manage the activities of the nationwide emergency communication service. Clause 11, prohibition respecting vexatious calls. This clause expands the coverage of telephone to include mobile telecommunication services, as most people no longer use fixed telephone lines. Clause 12, offenses and penalties. The offenses were expanded and penalty increased to deter offenders. Clause 14, signet number and streets. This clause was deleted in order not to create a conflict in its implementation and enforcement, since the provision falls within the constitutional power of states and local governments. Clause 15, interpretation. The meaning of commission was added to indicate the Nigerian Communications Commission. Findings. From the presentations and deliberations at the public hearing and a subsequent analysis of the provisions of the bill in a markup session, the committee made the following findings. 1, that stakeholders are unanimous in their support for the passage of this bill. 2, that the adoption of 112 as the sole emergency number for Nigeria, as opposed to several existing helpline numbers for varying emergency situations, as is obtainable at the moment, will eradicate the confusion associated with determining which helpline numbers to call. 3, that citizens can easily learn, memorize, and remember 112 when in distress situation. Flowing from the presentations made during the public hearing and the foregoing findings, the Senate Committee on Communications, to which the bill was referred, having favorably considered same, recommends as follows: that the Senate do consider and pass the bill for an act to establish the nationwide emergency communication service for the reporting of emergencies throughout the Federation and for other related matters, 2021, SB 583. I so move. In conclusion, we wish to use this opportunity to thank the President of the Senate and our distinguished colleagues for the opportunity to serve in this capacity and to humbly commend the passage of the bill to the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues.
Any comments, Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole?
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for this distinguished chamber to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to consider this very, very important report. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, this bill has 16 clauses, and almost all the clauses have been retained. Those in favor that clauses 1, 2, and 3 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. clause 4, 5, and 6. Those in favor that clause 4 to 6 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 7 on page 5, clause 8, exemption from liability, clause 9, prohibition respecting automatic alarm. Those in favor that clauses 7, 8, and 9 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 10, clause 11, clause 12 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 13 on page 7, clause 14, and 15, and 16 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title on page 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for the chair to report progress. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the chair reports progress say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Communications on the nationwide toll-free emergency number established in Bill 2021 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clauses as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion that this bill be read the third time.
Minority Leader. Today is a special day.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish a nationwide toll-free emergency number for reporting of emergencies throughout the Federation and for related matters 2021, SB 583, third reading.
A bill for an act to establish a nationwide toll-free emergency number for reporting of emergencies throughout the Federation and for related matters 2021, third reading taken, and the bill is passed. Congratulations, Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Health, that is secondary and tertiary, on the sickle cell anemia prevention, control and management bill 2021. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, we recall that the report of the committee was laid on this in this chamber on Wednesday, 21st April 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ibrahim Yahya Oloregbe, Chairman of the Committee on Health, to move the motion for the consideration of this report.
Senator Ibrahim Yahya Oloregbe.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ibrahim Yahya Oloregbe. I represent Kwara Central Senatorial District. I rise to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary on the sickle cell anemia prevention, control, and management bill 2021, SB 166. I so move, Mr. President.
Chairman, we have two bills, two reports there, so we'll take them together. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on the Federal Orthopedic Hospital, the Kenya Establishment Bill 2021, SB 516. I so move for the two bills.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor, no, I need seconders, please. I need a seconder. Senator Matthew Rogide.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Matthew Rogide, I represent the South Central District. I stand to second the motion as moved by Senator Oloregbe. I so second.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the reports of our Committee on Health, that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Health on the sickle cell anemia, and also that the Senate do receive and consider the report on the Federal Orthopedic Hospital, Dekina, say aye. Those against saying it, the ayes have it. You may lead the two reports, please, Chairman. Chairman, you present the report one after the other, please.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, presenting the first report on an act to provide for the prevention, control, and management of sickle cell disease and for other purposes connected therewith. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the bill, which was sponsored by Senator Sam Egwu, seeks to, among others, provide a framework for the prevention, control, and management of sickle cell disease in Nigeria. Mr. President, I will move to the observations of the committee. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, sickle cell anemia is a genetic disease. It is an inherited disorder of hemoglobin SS from either of both parents of a child. It's affecting nearly 100 million people globally. But Nigeria ranked first in the world as a sickle cell endemic country. And Nigeria was declared by World Health Organization in 2006 as capital of sickle cell disease in the world. The disease has the potential of affecting Nigeria's aspiration of attaining Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goal 2020, unless special attention is paid to the prevention and management of the disease. This bill will strengthen existing structures, encourage and strengthen support groups and other groups to be able to assess the effectiveness or otherwise of the control strategy in place to eliminate sickle cell disease. It's not creating any new agency or structure. The bill seeks to, among others, ensure that the federal government and individuals engage in and encourage the prevention, control, and management of the disease. The bill will establish a legal framework for the prevention, control, and management of the continuous spread of the disease, thereby averting early death and unnecessary medical expenses incurred by families as a result of the birth of children suffering from sickle cell disease. Mr. President, after a cross-by-cross consideration of the bill, which is divided into 5 parts, comprising of 16 clauses, the long title and the following memorandum, the committee recommends as follows: amendment of some clauses, renumbering of clauses, and retention of the clauses as listed in the report. In conclusion, Mr. President, the committee thanks the Senate President, Deputy Senate President, and the entire leadership, and my distinguished colleagues for the opportunity given to us to serve in this capacity. Mr. President, with your permission, I'll proceed on the second bill. The second bill is a bill that seeks to amend the Orthopedic Hospital Management Act, number 010/2004, to provide for the establishment of an orthopedic hospital in Dekina, Kogi State. The bill was sponsored by Senator Jibril Issa from Kogi East. Mr. President, I move to the objective of the bill. The Federal Orthopedic Hospital, Dekina Kogi, when established, will provide services such as diagnosis and treatment from traumatic events, such as accidental fall, car accidents, sport injuries, and other emergencies. It will also bring healthcare closer to the people at reduced cost compared to private hospitals and drastically reduce health tourism. In addition to the above advantages, it will deter patients from patronizing traditional bone setters who enjoy patronage in the absence of specialized orthopedic hospital. The orthopedic hospital will be affiliated to the Prince Abubakar Audu Investigation Hospital, Anyagba, to provide specialized orthopedic treatment and medical services. The recommendation of the committee, Mr. President, after a clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, the committee recommends the amended bill be approved as recommended. We wish to thank the leadership of the Senate and my entire colleagues for the opportunity given to us to serve in this capacity. I so submit, Mr. President.
Any comments? Leader, we resolve into committee of the whole to consider the two reports.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion that the distinguished Senate resolve into committee of the whole to consider the report on the bill for an act to provide for the prevention, control, and management of sickle cell disease and for other purposes connected therewith, and also a bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospitals Management Board Act Cap 010, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, to establish the Orthopedic Hospital Dekina in Kogi State. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolve into committee of the whole to consider the two reports, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, we have two reports, one on prevention, control, and management of sickle cell disease. It's not a controversial bill. All the clauses are retained. Those in favor of clauses 1, 2, and 3, no, clauses 1 and 2 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 3 is amended, part of it. Those in favor of clauses 3, 4, and 5 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 6 on page 10, donations. Clause 7 on page 12, restrictions regarding donations. And clause 8, mode of directive by National Assembly on donations. Those in favor of clauses 6, 7, and 8 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 9 on page 14, clause 10 deleted, and a new 10, clause 11. Those in favor of clauses 9, 10, and 11 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 12 on page 21, withdrawal or cancellation of accreditation. Clause 13, clause 14. Those who order those clauses stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those who order clauses 15 and 16 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those who order the interpretation stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those who order the short title on page 23 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 23 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. Okay, sorry. Yeah, the second report, which is even shorter. Thank you, Leader, for reminding me. The second report is to establish the orthopedic hospital Dekina, Kogi State. Senator Isa Jibrin. Today is your day. Those who vote at clauses 1 and 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who vote at clauses 3 and 4 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who vote at the short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who vote at the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who vote at the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion for the chair to report progress on the two bills presented and considered. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress on the two reports considered say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Health on the Sickle Cell Anemia Prevention, Control and Management Bill 2021 and approved as follows: long title as recommended, clauses as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, the explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. The Senate also in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Health on the Federal Orthopedic Hospital Establishment Bill 2021 and approved as follows: long title as recommended, clauses 1, 2, and 3 as recommended, short title as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion that the two bills be read the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the two bills be now read the third time say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the prevention, control, and management of sickle cell anemia and for other purposes connected therewith 2021 SB 166, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospitals Management Board Act Cap 010, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to provide for the establishment of the Federal Orthopedic Hospital, the Kina, and for other related matters 2021 SB 516, third reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the prevention, control, and management of sickle cell anemia and for other purposes connected there with 2021 third reading taken, and the bill is passed. A bill for an act to amend the Orthopedic Hospitals Management Board Act Cap 010, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to provide for the establishment of the Federal Orthopedic Hospital, Dekina, and for other related matters 2021 third reading taken, and the bill is also passed. Congratulations, Senate Leader.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions. in respect of A, petition from Mr. Kingsley Toru on behalf of Rivermount Technologies Limited against the Department of Petroleum Resources for non-payment of the sum of 9,375,616,700 naira for contracts executed. B, petition from Senator Bode Ola on behalf of Cornerstone Montessori Schools against Federal Capital Development Authority, FCDA, for the secret and illegal redesign grabbing of his plot number E27/3227 in Apo resettlement by Federal Capital Development Authority. And C, petition from Jackson Bago Esquire on behalf of Akbajenya Community, Apo Village, Abuja, against the Federal Capital Development Administration for wrongful obstruction of their farmlands and farming activities. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we recall that these reports were laid on Thursday, 11th February 2021, Wednesday, 14th October 2020, and Thursday, 5th March 2020, respectively. Mr. President, we wish to invite distinguished Senator Patrick Ayo Akinye-Lure to move the motion for the Senate to consider these reports.
Distinguished Senator Patrick Ayo Akinye-Lure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name remains Senator Ayo Akinye-Lure, representing Ondo Central. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate do consider the reports of Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Mr. Kingsley Toru on behalf of Riverine Technology Limited against Department of Petroleum Resources DPR for non-payment of a sum of 9.3 billion for contract executed. B, petition from Senator Bode Ola on behalf of Cornerstone Montessori Schools against the Federal Capital Development Authority for the secret and illegal redesign and grabbing of his plot number E27/3277 in Apo resettlement by the Federal Capital Development Authority, FCDA. And finally, Mr. President, number C, petition from Jackson Bako Esquire on behalf of Akbajenya Community, Apo Village, Abuja, against the Federal Capital Territory Administration for wrongful obstruction of their farmland and farming activity. I so rise, Mr. President, to present the report. Thank you.
I need a seconder. Distinguished Senator Kola Balogun. Distinguished Senator Kola Balogun.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion moved. I so second.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and that the Senate do consider the reports of our Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, you can present one after the other, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I will start with A. Mr. President, I want to seek the indulgence of the Senate, particularly to give a detailed report of this number one because of the controversial nature of the report when we first presented it. Report of Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of petition from Mr. Kingsley Toru on behalf of Riverine Technology Limited against Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, for non-payment of the sum of 9.3 billion for contract executed. The Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 28 April 2021, it considered the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of petition from Mr. Kingsley Toru on behalf of Riverine Technologies Limited against the Department of Petroleum Resources DPR for non-payment of the sum of 9.3 billion for contract executed, and resolved that due to some observed gray areas, the report be returned to the committee for further legislative action. Mr. President, following the committee action, the new Senate resolution and referral. Committee met, examined the gray areas indicated by the Senate in the plenary, and resolved that the contract agreement 1, 2, and 3 entered into by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, DPR, and Messrs. Riverine Technology Limited for phase 1 and 2 and 3 were adequate and explicit enough, such that further interpretation will no longer be necessary be needed. Mr. President, like I said, Mr. President, like I said, that I asked for indulgence of the Senate to allow me to give detailed report of this particular the report to the plenary, so that members will appreciate the position of the committee. The petitioner, Mr. Toru, on behalf of Referral Technology Limited, testified before the committee. The petitioner, Mr. Toru, stated as follows: 1, that the plenary of the Senate will recall that the SNA had resolved when the matter first came up, that Referral Technology Limited be mobilized back to site to complete its work and be paid for work done by the Department of Petroleum Resources. But that despite the Senate resolution, DPR did not only refuse to effect the payment of the outstanding sum, it had also refused to come back to site, with the consequence that their default debts acquired because of the contract continue to rise, just as the federal government of Nigeria continue to lose enormous revenue to foreign oil companies as they continue to produce without measurement. 2, that the federal government of Nigeria, through the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, awarded real-time gas monitoring and measurement project contract to their company, Riverine Technology Limited, in 2009. 3, that the project was to design, procure, install, and commission a system that will facilitate remote monitoring of natural gas volumes in real time from facilities operated by oil and gas, mostly foreign companies in Nigeria. That the DPR has the duty of supervising the project and providing access to various oil and gas companies whose gas production volumes were unaccounted for. Hence, their company was charged to provide a means of digitally measuring, monitoring in a transparent manner, and more importantly, for accountability purpose. Number 4, that the project was to enable the federal government of Nigeria again remotely verify the volume of gas production in real time at remote point locations specified by DPR in order to ensure accuracy and accountability of gas production in Nigeria, and for the purpose of royalties, taxes, and other related payments and statutory imposition due to the federal government. 5, that the project had 2 phases, and the 2 phases of the project had 166 points to install the monitoring and measurement devices as identified by DPR. 6, that Riverine Technology RTL had since completed the project in 2014 after the visit and verification exercise carried out by the DPR and the Senate Commission on Gas followed on 12 April 2016. 6, that RTL at the beginning of the project for a handing over meeting officially made a real-time stream in data presentation and officially handed over the equipment and the server code to DPR, which they duly acknowledged. 8, that the Senate Committee on Gas, headed by the Senior Senator Nkechi Nwogu, at their request, following shell development companies. Yeah. Okay. Now, let me go to DPR. 4.2. The DPR responding, the director of DPR, represented by Assistant Director Godi C. Ne, said, 1, that the project was conceived and awarded to Riverine Technology Limited by the federal government of Nigeria through the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources in 2009. That DPR was directed by MPR, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, to monitor the execution of the project. 2, that the scope of the project and objective entails engineering studies, equipment procurement, construction and installation of real-time gas production monitoring system. 3, that the project was to deploy a VSAT dispositive control and data acquisition SCADA system for the purpose of monitoring gas inflows, outflows, and specific custody transfer data across the Nigerian gas facility in Nigeria. That the contract was to be executed in 3 phases with a total of 160 sites that phases 1 and 2 of the contract has expired without the contractor successfully performing the contract deliverable, despite receiving full payment for phases 1 and 2. That every effort made by DPR to get the contractor to perform the contract in full had yielded any positive result, as the contractor had since abandoned the project. That the initial complaint of access against chair and others by RTL to installation site was long addressed by DPR before the expiration of the contract, stressing that the time expansion clause of the contract will not be activated since there was no barrier to company meeting its obligation under the terms of the said contract. That the contractor has no basis for claiming any liability due to poor execution of the job and should be required to deliver on its obligation on phases 2 and 3 of the project, for which financial commitment has been made by BDPR. Our observation and finding: after careful studying the new submission and all explanation made available to the committee, I haven't considered the observation made by the Senate during plenary. When this report was first considered, the committee noted as follows: 1, that Referent Technology Limited was actually awarded the contract to design, procure, install, and commission a system that will facilitate the remote monitoring of natural gas production volumes in real time for facilities operated by oil and gas companies, mostly foreign companies in Nigeria, companies in Nigeria. 2, that Referent Technology has actually completed 116 sites out of 116 sites they were engaged to cover. 3, that though DPR claimed that the contractor was incompetent for not executing the contract to the fullest, the committee found that DPR did not also do well for neglecting its supervisory role and for approving the job done by RTL and issuing a performance certificate to RTL, and on the basis of which they were paid and given approval to commence the next phase of the contract from phase 1 to 2, until all 3 phases had gone far, just waiting for completion. 4, the committee was amazed that a contractor DPR found incompetent was allowed to finish phase 1, commended and be paid and allowed to complete phase 2 and certify it okay and gave part payment and allowed it to commence to phase 3. 5, that when asked to explain why it did not implement the resolution of a Senate, DPR kept insisting that it was only phase 1 that was completed and that the contractor should refund money for phase 2 and 3, to which he gave approval and paid for in part. And since that when pressed further by the committee to explain why it paid for phase 2 and 3 in part, when it was sure that the work had not been done, DPR said it was Ministry of Petroleum Resources that gave the approval for payment, and that the committee, in the renewed effort to know the truth, discovered that Ministry of Petroleum Resources only signs contract on behalf of its agencies. Certification and payment approvals were always done by the agencies concerned, since it was their project. The parent ministry only authenticates and go ahead for payment based on submission made by the DPR. That DPR is the actual owner of the project and also pays for it. Such. 8, that the committee also observed that all 3 contract agreement number 029 of 25 September 2009, number 046210 of 26 November 2010, and number 65211 of 4th March 2011 on the same job gave the employer power to terminate the contract if dissatisfied by the performance of the contract after notifying the other party within 14 days. 9, that in case of a force majeure which could not be reconciled by both parties, either party could terminate the contract. 10, that in this case, neither DPR nor RTL actually called for termination of the contract. The contract was still running as far as the contract agreement were concerned. And finally, number 11, that in all our findings made by the committee, nothing in the submission so far suggest that there was an official complaint about non-performance or poor performance by DPR against RTL. DPR only said in his own self-defense at the committee hearing, there was no letter on poor performance, which could have been a reason to terminate contract. Recommendation. Based on the above finding, the committee hereby recommends as follows: that the Department of Petroleum Resources haven't failed to implement the resolution of the Senate, but ought to pay Reference Technology Limited the sum of 9.3 billion for work done. Two, that in view of the brilliant revenue of the federal government to finance its annual budget leading to deficit budgeting, the Senate further urged DPR to recall Reference Technology Limited back to site to complete phase 2 and 3 of the project to enhance the real-time capturing of a gas production volume by local and foreign oil farms, which will significantly improve the revenue of the federal government of Nigeria. And three, in addition, the Senate further urged DPR to pay 10% interest of the outstanding principal of 9.3 billion, which started to 937 million, for delayed payment of the principal sum since Thursday, 30th May 2019, when the Senate resolved that Riverine Technology be paid a position contract number 65211 and of 2011 phase 3 support. If the contract of RTL will not be renewed for it to complete phase 2 and 3 of the project in line with terms and the contract executed by RTL. Mr. President, colleagues, and respect colleagues, on behalf of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privilege and Public Petition, I appreciate the Senate President and leadership of the Senate for appointing giving to us to serve in this capacity. I so move, Mr. President.
Any comments? Otherwise, we'll go to the recommendations. Comment? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I only just wanted to say that the last time this issue was discussed, we actually urged the committee to go back and ensure that DPR is able to give any concrete evidence. And I think from what we have seen here, DPR does not have such concrete evidence. It means they are perhaps in default. So I just want to point that out because we actually have discussed this earlier.
Okay. Senator Samata Demi.
Well, Mr. President, I want to thank you. From the presentation of the chairman of our committee, there is no doubt that there was a valid contract. And there was no doubt to Mr. President that there are some shortcomings on the part of DPR. Like they say in law, ubi jus, ubi meridon. Where there is a fault, there must be a remedy. And the remedy is very simple, Mr. President, that Riverman Technology should be allowed to commence and complete phases 2 and 3 of the project, taking into consideration the dwelling resources of the federal government. I think effort must be made to ensure that there is value for all contracts awarded. And I think, Mr. President, is equally corruption on the part of any government agency when contracts are awarded and payments are deliberately not made. It is equally corruption. And if we want our country to move forward, government agencies must meet their obligations, especially when there are valid contracts. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the recommendations, distinguished colleagues. Recommendations on page 10 of the report. The committee recommends as follows. Recommendation 1, that the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, having failed to implement the resolution of the S Senate, be urged to pay Riverman Technologies Limited the sum of 9,375,616,700 naira only for work done. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that in view of the dwindling revenue of the federal government to finance its annual budget leading to deficit budgeting, the Senate further urges the DPR to recall Riverman Technologies Limited RTL back to site to complete the phases 2 and 3 of the project to enhance the real-time capturing of gas production volume by local and foreign oil firms, which would significantly improve the revenue of the federal government of Nigeria. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And recommendation 3, in addition, the Senate further urges the DPR to pay 10% interest of the outstanding principal of 9,357,616,700 naira, which translates to 937,561,670 naira for delaying payment of the principal sum since Thursday, 30th May 2019, When the Senate resolved that Riverman Technologies RTL be paid a position contract number 65211 of 2011 phase 3 supports if the contract of RTL will not be renewed for it to complete phases 2 and 3 of the project line in line with the terms of the contract executed by RTL. Chairman, before I put this recommendation to voting, is RTL asking for this 10% interest, or is the committee that is recommending it?